And welcome to MGD 111 Photoshop. This week we're going to take a look at typography. I have a little brief presentation on the anatomy of type here before we move on. For those of you who have never worked with type, just a little bit of understanding of the parts of type. When we have capital and lowercase in most fonts, we have what we call the body, which is the main part of the type. Most of the lowercase letters have the bulk of their weight sitting in between these lines. We have what's called the ascender. Those are the sticks that stick up on letters like lowercase d or b or the lowercase f in most fonts. And then we have what's called a descender, like the letter y here, or the letter g, where they hang down below that line. Not all fonts have ascenders or descenders. Some are all capitals only. But the important thing to know here is when we measure type, it has to do with those particular things. We refer to the measurement of type in points, which equates to pixels, basically, in Photoshop. 72-point type is going to be how big? Well, you may recall when we were setting our preferences that there are 72 points to an inch. So, type that is 72 points in size is going to be an inch tall, but from where to where? Well, from the top of the ascender to the bottom of the descender. Now, you may notice some curved letters, like this G, stick up above their line ever so slightly. It's just kind of an optical illusion that makes it look like they're the same size. If it's stuck under this green line, it wouldn't. It would look smaller, actually. But we measure the letters themselves in points like this. That's our point size. Don't call it a font size, please. Don't say I want a bigger font. But we measure the space between lines. We also measure that in points. And we refer to that space between the lines as line spacing. Simple enough, right? The reason I point that out is there's another measurement that we do use quite frequently, and that's called leading. Leading is a combination of the point size plus the line spacing. Basically, it measures from the top of the ascenders of one line to the top of the ascenders of the next line. So when we're dealing with type, you're going to be measuring the letters in points, and you're also going to measure the spacing using leading. So I just want you to understand what kind of things we're talking about here. Now, Photoshop uses where everything's measured in pixels, and it depends on the resolution of your type. And this is why I don't think Photoshop is a great tool for word processing or laying out large blocks of type. Figure it out this way. If we're looking at a 72 dpi photo, that's 72 dots per inch, and I put 72 point type on there, the type is going to be an inch tall relative to the picture. If we have a higher resolution picture, though, say 300 dots per inch, my 72 point type is going to be only about a quarter of an inch tall. So we use type in Photoshop in a sort of relative sense. We go with what looks good. So you'll see some examples of how we're going to work with this in our presentations this week. By the way, there is a longer form of this presentation with a lot more information about the anatomy of type. You'll find it listed in your index for this week, so I encourage you to look that over before you proceed with the Photoshop part. Thanks.